I think we're going to go with you guys.
That's great. All right. Where am I? Here I am. Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a good Tuesday afternoon. I was wondering why all the low energy was happening yesterday, and then someone told me that all the first year camps were on the weekend. So that makes me feel so much better. Clearly, you all had a good time. Hopefully, you went and you enjoyed yourselves at those camps and just had a lovely time. And that's why you were half asleep. Okay, well, today we're going to have quite a day. I've had lunch, so I'm not going to melt down now. We're not going to have to finish early because I'm having a meltdown. So let's have a look at the code that we finished off with yesterday, and then we will take it from there. How does that sound? And actually, just before we start, Sophie or Bella, if you can please run a poll about how we're feeling about strings. And then we will continue. And then also, kind of after that, if you can run a poll for me, please, to see if we want to do an array of structs before I go into two-dimensional arrays. Okay. Can I just confirm that you can hear me? That was probably a much better place to start than telling you that you might have been tired from the first year camp. Okay, excellent. Yeah, so Python abstracts that information away from you, right? So C really does not give you the gentle hand holding that Python does. There is no primitive type for a string. It's just, you have to use it as an array of char and so on and so forth. Okay. Okay, I'm going to do great, never better. This is so positive. I'm very lost and still kind of confused. Okay, that's not as positive. So I'm going to do a few things with strings then, and then we're going to go on to do arrays. So the assignment, I know everyone's super excited. The assignment is going to be released after this lecture at 4 o'clock. So just when you think you're done, you actually have so much to look forward to because you get to go and read through the assignment. There is also a very short video which kind of introduces you to the assignment and also tells you what's happening, what's going on, and basically what's in the assignment, what you need to know to set it up, and so on. When is it due? It's going to be due in week 7 on the Monday of week 7. So that means you have the flex week also to work on it. And during that flex week, we still continue to run help sessions. So you can pop in to our help sessions to get help with your assignment. Yeah, we are kind to you, maybe. Yeah, so week 6 is flex week. So we've got next week of lectures, and then the week after that, there's no lectures, there's no tutes, there's no classes. You're not allowed to learn anything new. But if you think it's going to be a break, it's going to be a week where you might get to sleep in, but you will be catching up on everything under the sun. And then the 7, 8, 9, 10, they just go so quickly, right? We will barely have time to kind of say boo. And there we are at the end. And there you are sitting an exam. And then boom, you finished your whole first term at university. It all runs past very quickly. Okay, let's start. There are help sessions, yes, during, and yeah. Okay, don't be scared, be excited. Don't be scared. The exam is not written. You are on a computer, on your lab computers, in an exam environment, which looks very much like your lab environment, except nothing else is available to you, and you're coding, okay? But we'll talk about the exam in week 9 and week 10, so don't worry. Don't think about the exam now. It's still too early to think about the exam. If you're doing your labs and if you are doing your assignment, you will be okay. There is no handwriting. It is all on the computer. You have auto tests. We will discuss it in week 9 and 10. I promise you, you are good, right? You just have to spend time learning, which is really the key to success at university, full stop. Okay, so we wrote this code yesterday. And then both the computer and I had a little meltdown. And if you want to remember what happened, it gave us a little error. And that error was not that. So I'm having no, I'm not having a meltdown. I'm fine because I'm full of food. And that's all I think about ever. Food. Where is my next meal coming from? And I had delicious food today. So good. Okay. Okay, we're back. Here we go. Okay. Oh, you can't even see that. Okay, let me show you the file so you can see it. All right, we're back. I'm back. Okay, so let's do string lower.c, and we're going to make an executable called string lower as well. And we got this warning, and the warning said, okay, you're ignoring the return value. So it's a warning, it's not an error. You're not using the value returned by function toLower. Now, if you remember yesterday, I went into the manual and the function toLower basically returns an int and we give it an int. So remember that all of our letters are actually ints in C, they're ASCII code. Did Henry run the ASCII command so you could see the codes? That looks so horrible. That's not what it actually, here you go. So all of our letters are actually associated with integers as well. So we've got 65 is capital A, and so on and so forth until we get to little a, which is 97. So if what it's saying, what this error is saying is that, okay, I've lowered this character, but I haven't actually stored that lowering anywhere, right? So I've done it, but I haven't returned anything, and it's just disappeared basically. So what we need to do is we need to say at that place, so at array at index I, we want to lower the letter. Okay, so let's see what this gives us, and then we can try and do it without, right? We're going to do it without these functions. We're actually just going to do the ASCII command that gets rid of the ugly stuff is ASCII -D, because it gives us decimal. It's the ugly stuff, the hexadecimal stuff. So the -D gives you just the decimal values. Okay, excellent. So did I compile it? Don't know. Let's compile it again just in case. Okay, and no warnings this time, so now let's run it. And it would be really helpful if you spelt it correctly. And if I enter my name, what it should be doing is it should grab this capital C and it should make it a little c, which it does do. And then also it gives me that new line, of course, because I haven't gotten rid of that new line. Okay, fantastic. So, great. I'm going to now say, okay, well, that felt a bit lazy. We just used all of those functions. And then I also told you that when I was a student, we had to rewrite all of these functions that are available to us in the standard libraries. Lots of times we had to rewrite them ourselves, because what better way to understand what on earth you're doing than that? So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to comment out this bit here, which is the bit that is using all the lovely functions and making things easier for us. And we're going to do this ourselves. How does that sound? Does that sound amazing? Amazing or not amazing? Not amazing? Amazing! Okay. So, what we're going to do, we want to be doing some things. We want to be checking if it's a capital letter, and we want to be lowering it. So what's a way that I can do it? If I give us, C-type library is giving us those other things. Okay, so if I've got my ASCII table, how do you think I will check whether it's a capital letter? So I can do ASCII values, or imagine if I had an if statement here and I said, okay, if whatever is sitting in array at index I is greater than or equals to, now my capital A is 65, so greater than or equals to 65, and array at index I is also less than or equal to, and the letter Z is 90. So it's equal to 90. How's that for reading? Do you think if you came to read it later, would you understand it? Yeah, so this is correct, but it's not very readable, right? So what we can do is we can just do it like this. If we put it in single quotation marks, what it does is it's telling it, okay, this is an ASCII value, which means it's 65, right? So, but for us, it's much easier to read this code. And similarly here, single quotation marks tell us, okay, it is in the ASCII table, and we are between A and between Z, so we're between these numbers here. Okay, so if it is between those values, then what I want to do is I want to make whatever is sitting at array I want to make it a little letter. So let's use our example of Sasha, okay? And the first letter that we come to, so that means we have array at index 0 is equal to S. So we come in because we've got a capital S. So at index 0, we're between capital A and capital Z. So, okay, you're all saying plus 32. I appreciate that. Can you tell me why it's plus 32? Someone's giving little letters are called simple letters. That's not a kind name to give them. My goodness. Yeah? So you did 96 minus 65, and you did 96 because 96 is over here, 65 is over here. So what I want to do, so let's say, okay, I'm at the letter S. The letter S is currently the number 83. Okay, so, but I don't want it to be minus, sorry. That confuses matters. Okay, so it's 83 on the ASCII table, this letter. Now, I know that if it is 83, I want it to be somewhere over here, so I want it to end up at 115. So what I want, my aim is to have array at 0, that's an O, array at 0, be equal to little s, which is, I've already forgotten, 115. So I need to get from 83 to 115. Now note also that there is some rubbish here in the middle of them. It's not just simple, capital letters, then simple letters. There's a whole bunch of stuff here in between it. Well, 5 things in between it, which are also counting. So what I want to do is I want to find out how far S is from a capital A, right? So what's the distance that I went to get from A to S? Because the distance in the alphabet does not change for capital letters or for little letters. So how do you think I would find from S to A the distance? How would I find it in code without doing a hard-coded value? What do we think? And I did choose the, letter. Yep. What do we think? Yep. So if we do whatever is sitting at our index, we're going to subtract a capital A. And what that will give us is that will give us the distance that the capital letter is sitting from the first letter of the alphabet. So now we know where that letter is, and what would I need to do now is I need to find the same distance from little a. So what would I do next to find the same distance from little a? Yeah, so I would add little a now to see where it is from little a. So I've subtracted the big A to see how far I am into the alphabet, how many letters I've gone past the big A. And then I've added it to the little a to add the same distance to the little a, which will get me to an S. Okay, so let's see if that works now. So let me compile it, DCC, I'm just going to press up. Okay, and then I'll run it, and let's see, and it's working, which is amazing. Now, can you tell me, have I cooked you with that, or are you feeling okay with that? Do you want me to draw it up? How do you feel? Can we poll that? Do you want me to draw it up? Would that make it easier, or what would you? Draw it up. Okay. Okay, I'm going to draw. Okay, and guess what? I've got a new amazing thing. That's not what I wanted. No, I wanted a... You could draw a rectangle. Oh, Control Z. Okay. Okay, here we go. Look at that. How good's that? I don't have to draw rubbish rectangles. These are not going to be great, even though they're drawing themselves. Okay. How long should the lab exercises take you? It depends how much you've been following the lectures. 1 dot and 2 dot should not take as much as 3 dots are a special thing. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I've done Sasha into here. So what happened here is we got an array of size. So, oh, it was 10. Okay, so we got this ridiculous array here. 7, 8, 9, 10. And I shouldn't have done the 10. I'd really just want to erase that last bit. How do I erase a little bit? Ugh. I can't. What a stupid thing. Okay, just pretend that that doesn't exist. I went out of bounds. There's nothing here. Nothing to see here, folks. Okay, so we've declared an array. So I've got my array. This array is called array. It's got nothing in it yet. So I've got an array called array. And it's given me a space for 9 things in there. Each one will contain a char and it's indexed from 0 to 9. The next thing I do is I print out enter a name, and the next thing I do is I use the fgets function to read into that array. So what I'm reading into it is Sasha, so capital S, little a, little s, little h, little a, and then it's going to give me a null terminator because it finished reading a string. So all of this is just whatever, rubbished. Excellent. So I've gotten my array, I've gotten it from standard input, which means I got it from terminal, and I popped my letters into the array. Great. Then I move on to the next bit. So now I've created a new I variable, and that I is equal to 0. Excellent. I will check whether whatever is sitting at array I is not equal to a null terminator. So let's check. I access whatever's sitting at array I. It's a capital S, which is not a null terminator, which means that I'm good. My condition is met, and I enter into my for loop. So I move on to line 19. And now I check whether whatever is sitting at array at index 0 is greater than capital A. So I access whatever's sitting at array at index 0, and I see that it is a capital S. Okay, it meets this condition, and then it has to meet this condition because it's an AND. So array at index 0 is also less than Z. Yes, it is, which means both conditions are met, and that means I go into my if statement. And now I come to this line of code. And this line of code says, okay, whatever is sitting at array at index 0 now is we're going to go on this side, and we always do the right side first. So we want to make it a lower letter. So I have a capital S, which means that I am over here. Okay, so my capital S, the way I'm going to make it into a lowercase letter is what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide the distance it is from the start of the alphabet to this letter. Because the distance in the capital letters is exactly the same as the distance in the lowercase letters. So if I know what distance my S is from the first letter of the alphabet, so from A, it means that I then know how far to go from a little a to get to the very same letter that's a little letter. Yeah? Okay, great. So to find that out, to find the distance between the two, I use a maths operation. Because my chars in C are actually numbers, I can perform maths operations on them. Okay? And that means that I can do S take away the capital A, and that will give me 83 take away 65, which gives me the difference or how far that S is from the capital A. So that's the first part of it, because whatever's sitting at array at index 0 is capital S, and then I'm subtracting A. So this first part has given me the distance that capital S is from the letter A. Okay, great. So I have 83 minus 65, which is 18. Whoever has kindly done the maths. Excellent. So the distance from here down to here is going to be 18. And I know that the distance is going to be exactly the same from here to here. So now I go, okay, I've got my distance is going to be 18, and I'm going to add that 18 to little a to go back to 115. So then I get 97 plus 18, which will give me 115. So then I do this plus a. The reason I can't just add 32, I mean, I can, that's the thing, but it's not as easy to read and understand when someone is just looking through your code, right? So it's correct to do it, but it's not easy to discern when another person is reading your code. Whereas if you say, okay, minus capital A plus little a, it gives the readability that you want to give. So a lot of things that we do in code are for readability and to make it more simple. Okay, how does that? How was that? Was that okay? So we've changed that letter. That letter is now going to be a little s. So that letter, so we've calculated little s and we've assigned it to whatever's on the left side, which is array at index 0. And then we increase our I to 1. So we go on to 1 and we do our checking again. Is little a between capital A and capital Z? No, it's not. Little a is outside of this comparison. So then I don't go into the if statement. So my I just increases again. And then I check again, is array at index 2, so is now this thing, little s, is it between capital A and capital Z, which is sitting anywhere between 65 and 80 and 90? No, it's not. So again, I don't go into the if statement and I just increase my index. Great, I'm now sitting over here. And when I'm sitting over here, I'll check again, does it meet this if statement? Because we haven't reached the end condition of the for loop. No, it doesn't. So then again, I don't go into the if statement. I increase my I. So my I is now 4 and I check, is little a between capital A and capital Z? No, it's not. So I don't go into the if statement and I increase my I again. So now it's at index 5. Then when I check this condition in the for loop, it is equal to a null terminator, which means we don't go into the for loop and we exit out to line 32 and we print our string. Okay, does that make sense? How's that? Let me know if that makes sense, please. Okay. Okay, great. I want to do one more thing with strings because it will be useful for your assignment. And remember that sometimes we cover a lot of things in the lecture. Don't worry, you repeat it again in the tutorial and lab. And just remember that it's like week 4, I think everything becomes a lot. So just step by step, okay? We can get there, and I can repeat things, okay? I've given, like, there's one lecture that can be extra stuff or it can be recapping stuff, so please just let me know if you want me to repeat anything or whatever else, and I'll put up a feedback link as well so that you can do that. Okay, excellent. Okay, what was I going to do now? I was going to do something else. Oh yes, I want to show you how to keep taking input in, so how to keep using fgets until a control D is pressed. So here we use our fgets once, and then we do something with whatever is going on, whichever string that we took in. Now, what happens if I want to keep taking in strings from standard input, and I want to keep doing something with it, and then take in the next string, and then take in the next string, and take in the next string? So that's what I want to do now. And you know what? I was going to work in the same file, but that could get messy. Let's do a different file. We've got string lower. Let's just do strings.c. Just to make it really confusing, there's now string lower. I should have just done it in here. And there's strings.c. Okay, I'm going to do it in here. And I'm going to demonstrate, program to demonstrate a loop to keep doing fgets. And when there is no more input, stop the loop. And that happens when our fgets returns a null. Okay, so far you're not going to know what null is. Don't worry, you will know exactly what null is in next week. Yeah. When we do more to do with memory, you're going to learn what null is. So for now, just take my word for it. So we're going to include our standard input output. And okay, excellent. Okay, so I'm going to create an array of chars, which is a string. So I'm going to call it char string, amazing. Square brackets, and because I'm not giving it a string literal I'm going to give it a size in here. So that means I'll hash define a size here as well. Okay, great. And now what we have is we have a string that's been created of size 10. So that means the indexing starts at 0 and goes till 9. And now let's do a little prompt. So I'm going to prompt the user to do something. Maybe not something, type a string here. And then I'm going to loop and loop and loop and loop and echo it and echo it and echo it. Okay, so I'm going to do while. So my way to read a string, which we've talked about last week, is fgets, the name of the array, so in this case string, the maximum size of that array that I've allocated, so size, and where I'm reading it from. So this is a function that's being called fgets, and it's given 3 input parameters. It's given the array, the size, and where it's reading from. Now that function also returns something. So far we haven't really cared, and we haven't used whatever it returns. Same with, scanf, or we haven't used whatever it returns. So now we're actually going to use it, and we're going to check that whatever this function returns when we read from strings, size, and standard input is not going to be equal to null. And what that will do is that will keep reading until a null happens. And a null happens one of the cases, not every case, when you press Control plus D. So what it allows you to do is it allows you to take in input all the time, right? On a loop whilst you are doing things. And what I'm going to do then, and I'm going to be super, super duper annoying, is I'm going to echo the string. I'm going to new line, and string is going to be string. Okay. And just okay. Shall we have a look what it does? I mean, even if you say no, I'm still going to go ahead and compile it and see what it does. Okay. Amazing. EOF is an end of file. Okay, type a string. What string should we type? Someone give me a string. I can't function and think. What do we want to echo? What do we want to have the string be? I've been told that no 6/7s. I love Survivor. I don't love Survivor. All right. Well, no, that's too long anyway. We can only have 10 characters. Oh. I can make it bigger. Here we go. 20. Okay, fine. Henry will love that. I hope someone takes a screenshot of this. Oh, well, what happened there? We all know what happened, right? Just wait, give me a second. Let me save the new thing with lots of stuff. Just wait. I mean, not that you have a choice, but you have to wait. Okay, here we go. All right, let's try this again. So we got 20. This is a really ugly, I've done something very, very ugly. What can I do to fix it? It's going to be, ew. Ew? Anyway, let's just have it be ew for a second, and then you can tell me what I can fix to make it less ew looking. Okay, I'm going to do them all. Type a string here. I love Survivor. Echo, I love Survivor. Someone took a screenshot. Hi, Salsa 20. Salsa, are we talking about me? I hope not. Bye, Henry. Bye, Henry. Bye, Henry. What else? Hi, Sasha. I'm going to run out of characters here. The quick fox jumps over the wall. That's going to be a few. Yep. Oh, sashimi. Well, that's clever, isn't it? So anyway, you can see that it keeps going. And then when I press Control D, it says, oh, you must have pressed Control D. So what it allows you to do is it allows you to keep taking input, do something with that input, which I haven't actually done anything with it except for just type it out again. And then it exits out of the loop when a Control D is pressed, which is what this null is indicating. Yeah? Does that feel okay? Not okay? Okay. We can... Oh, Henry, why are you in this lecture? Oh, go do something fun. OMG. Henry? Ugh. Seriously, Henry, this lecture is not that good. Actually, it's fabulous, so you are in the right place. It is absolutely the right place to be. Okay, excellent. Yeah, New Zealand man is Henry. And he is clearly obsessed with 1511 lectures. Henry's always drinking Diet Coke. The world will explode when he's not drinking a Diet Coke. Okay, let's go back to our code. Now everyone's excited about Henry. Oh, now everyone's professing their love for Henry. I'm right here. I can see you. I can hear you. All right, let's go. Next thing that we're going to do. We are going to look at something else because strings are done. We are finished with strings. Well, do we want to? We can do something else about strings in the recap, okay? But we're going to move on. Oh, do you want an array of structs example? That's a big yes. Oh, Sophie, thank you. And thank you, the other person. I appreciate that. I can feel the... I should leave, send Henry in, and then just secretly pop up into the chat again. Okay, I think everyone wants to do a structs example, so let's do that. On the one here, it didn't echo properly because it was more than 20 characters. You do not need to know the additional string functions that I have included, but you will need to use some of them, and they are very, very, very useful. Some of them are very useful when you're doing your assignment and stuff. Okay, let's do an array of structs. The array of structs. Oh, I also wanted to have an enum. I think it's too much. I'm going to just do an array of structs. Enums will have to wait a little bit more. Okay. Okay. You can see some of the things that we did in string.c file. So in this file over here, string.c, that's got a lot of the functions that we did again. Okay, let's have a struct. Okay, you know what? Maybe I'm just gonna go with the same example. We're gonna go with the Olympics, and now we have strings, which is exciting. We can have names. That's exciting, isn't it? Maybe for me, no one else. Maybe that's why people want Henry back, because I'm excited by being able to enter a string. Okay, I'm going to do. Oh well, I did dogs or cat. I don't want to do that. That's boring. Is it boring? Yeah, I don't want to do that. That's boring. Um, we are having a Kahoot today because I've been told what's the point of coming here if there's no Kahoots. So don't worry. Someone always loves something more than dogs or cats. And it's always dogs. That is the only answer that is available today. You don't even know Henry. He is very lovable though. It is true. Okay. Let's keep going. Ah, Bella, I didn't know you like cats more than dogs. That feels... What a strange thing. I feel like we have to do a poll now. Who likes cats more than dogs? Cats or dogs? I don't mind cats. No one's doing a poll for me. I guess it's a crappy cat poll. So many cats. Birds. I do like birds as well. Dogs. Bunnies. I do love bunnies. Pythons, they freak me out a little bit. Cats get you gifts. You know what? I could live without the gifts that my neighbor's cat brings me. And if you're wondering, it's just dead rats all the time. It loves me. It keeps leaving them on my... Ugh, gross. And then I have to clean it up. Oh, disgusting. All right. You don't need 2 seconds. You're that good. I cannot believe it. More cats than dogs. Oh, this is crazy. All right, I've wasted too much time. Let's keep going. I'm horrified. All right, well, I'm going to do the Olympics example again because I'm feeling the vibes of the Olympics. I don't know why. I should feel the vibe. Oh my gosh, it's the World Cup year. But the year I did that, no one knew what the World Cup was, and it was really disappointing. So I guess I won't do that. Kahoot in like 15 minutes. Let's relax. Let's just do one array of structs. So I'm going to do a size, and I'm also going to do another size because why not? Let's live a little. Okay, so my struct, I'm going to define it outside of the main. So the 3 steps is the first step. I'm going to define the struct, and I do it outside of the main. And I'm going to have person, but I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to make it an athlete. And this athlete is now allowed to have a name, and that is incredible. And the name, I'm going to make it Max, not the name. And they can have a country now as well that is an array, which is also exciting. So we can actually type stuff in, and then we're going to give them a score that they have scored, okay? So we've defined our struct, and now we're going to declare an array of structs. So to declare it, I want the same of what type. So I want it of type, athlete is a really difficult word. Struct athlete, and I'm going to have an array of structs. So if you remember when we declared just one struct, we would have said, okay, maybe we'll have like this, okay? and that's one team member, and that one team member has 3 components associated with them. They would have a name, a country, and a score. But now I want to have a whole team of them, right? So if I want a whole team that's going to be composed of all these different, I can't have just team member 1, then I'd do another one, and I'd do team member 2. I think I've misspelled athlete. I have. Right, so if I keep doing that, that's going to get very tedious. So again, this is where I'm going to use an array. And so to use an array, I'm going to have, I want the array to be of struct athlete, and I'm going to give it the variable name team to this array, and I'm going to give it the size, not 10, you know what, because otherwise we're going to get insane. I'm going to make it 3. Okay. So what that did, right, when I've declared this array of structs, what it actually did is it created something that looks like this. So it created an array. That was a mistake what I just did. I didn't have enough space. Sorry, I'm not that good at, let's try this again. So it created an array of 3 things. Okay, and inside this array, so again, it's index 0, 1, and 2. And the array is called team, and it's of type struct athlete. What that means is that it's got this structure to it, and that means that every single element of the array at every single index, you have name, you have the country, and finally you have the score. And that's inside every single one. So basically you've got an array of all of the same thing. Yeah? So again, so it's not initialized, but there's space created for this kind of structure. So name, country, and score. And finally, at index 2, we've got the same thing. We've got the name, an array. We've got the country, an array. And we have the score. Okay, excellent. So I've got this lovely array now, and now I can fill it up, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some stuff into this array. Okay, so if you remember, for something like if we had struct athlete and we just had one thing, and this was our variable, then to put something into it, to initialize it, we would call this variable name, and then you know what, I have a drawing tablet, and the drawing tablet has refused to connect with my computer because my computer doesn't have enough HDMI ports, and so the HDMI ports are on order. So next week I'll be able to draw on my drawing tablet, which is literally sitting right next to me, right? Unable to be used. Very annoying. Okay, so team member, and then we would say dot, and we will say where do we want to put something, let's say into name, and then we could say Sasha because I'm obviously an Olympian. Excellent. So that doesn't work for us when we have an array now. So that means we now have to load into the array. So the same rules apply when we are doing anything with an array. We can't just put something into the whole of the array. What we need to do is we need to access every single index of the array, and then we have to do into every index. Once we access it, that's when we initialize everything in there. Okay, fantastic. So let's do that. So to access all of these bits of the array, we always have our little loop that cycles through the different indexes and loops through the array. And so I'm going to say I is less than size because that's how big my array is. And my condition is going to be I++. Okay, and now I want to read in, so I'll have printf, let's do athlete name. Should we do it? We could count them off as well, can't we? Should we count them? That will make it easier. Athlete, and maybe here I'm going to say %D, name. And then here I'm going to say, because I starts from 0, I'm going to keep it as I so we can see what indexing it's doing. Okay, so where it's stored in the index. Okay, great. Okay, so first name, we're going to use fgets to read a string because we've got the name is a string. So we're going to read it into team at index I, and then we're going to put the dot to access the name member, and then we're going to say the maximum size of that is max, and we're going to read it from standard input. Okay, great. That will give us the name. Okay, so this will go with this one and it will give us the name. Okay, next one, let's do the same. So we will have athletes, country, and again, I'll just have the I there for demonstration just so that you can see what's going on. And again, I'm going to read in the string and I'm going to store it inside team I dot, and the member that I want to access now is this member over here. So I want to put it inside country, and it's still going to be max, and I'm still reading from standard input. Great, and then finally I'm going to have, oh, I shouldn't have, that did not need to, okay. So now we're going to have athletes score. And again, I don't need an fgets now. Now I need a scanf, and that scanf is going to be an LF because it might have decimal points. And we're going to read it again into team at index I dot score. So it's going to go in there. Okay, fantastic. All right, and then we can print it out. So let's see, printf. Let's do a scoreboard. And then we're going to loop through that array. And we're going to actually print out what is sitting inside it. So I'm going to loop through it again. And then don't worry, we're going to go through this code. So I is less than size because our arrays of type size, and I++. And let's print out that everything that's in there. So what I want to do is I want to I want to printf, and I'm going to say, okay. So we're going to say %s from %s scored point to LF, and then I'm going to do a new line. And the things that I want to access for it is team at index I, and I want name. Then I want team at index I want their country. And finally, team at index I, and I want their score. Okay, shall we see what it does? Let's see what it does. Okay, so let's do DCC array struct.c, and let me control. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to remove all of this. That's going to be annoying afterwards. Okay, what have I done here? Oh, what did I put here? I'm sorry. I'm off with the fairies. No one pointed it out. Okay, and then what's wrong now? Let's have a look. Oh, yeah, I forgot the ampersand. It's because I was doing all of those ones. Very good. Okay, let's try this again. Here we go. Third time lucky. And I could have entered the name, but I didn't. Okay, let's have a look. Athlete 0 name. Sophie, you're an athlete. Which country are you representing? I'm going to say Australia. What's your score, Sophie? What is Sophie's score? I didn't see, I'm sorry, because my chat is on another window, so I have to constantly look over to the other side. And sometimes you talk too fast and your chat has moved on. Oh, and what happened there? Bad things happened there. Lots of bad things happened there. I'm going to exit out of this and I'm going to do something else for a second and then I'm going to point out what happened there. Okay? I didn't mean for that error, but there we go. It's a good way to learn. Okay, Sophie, you're back. You're going to represent Australia. Yes. And your score is going to be 99. Because you're amazing. And then my issue happened again and again. It's going to keep happening. It's my fault. Who knows why it's happening? I know why it's well, you would hope I'd know why it's happening. I was trying for you to see where the index is. Yes, it's that hidden new line. So athlete's one name right now is that beautiful new line that's going in there and it's so annoying. It's so annoying. So athlete one is going to be the new line for a second. And athletes one country is going to be CS because and their score is going to be 0. And that stupid new line has read again. And what's going to be our next country? Da 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 da. I don't know what country to do. It is computer science country. New Zealand, that's a good one. And the score is 5. Okay, Sophie from Australia scored 99. From no one, new line from CS scored 0. And new line from New Zealand scored 5. Amazing. Okay, so can you poll me who's got no idea what just happened? And how do we swallow up that new line? Because that new line is killing our vibes here. Who's got a clue what's happening with a struct? The array of structs is basically the same, but it's using arrays. Yeah, we can use an if statement here, and we can go through and fix it up to remove the new line from the buffer. Do you know what happened? Okay, so what happened is every time I pressed the new line, it was reading the new line because if you saw yesterday, the fgets processes the new line as well. So we need to, how does it get to both fgets? Because I entered the country here and I pressed enter and I entered something here. Sorry, I entered something here, pressed enter, and I did the same thing here and I pressed enter. So there's 2 new lines going and those are the 2 new lines that are here. So that's why. Okay. Now, shall we take a little break and then we'll come back in a second? And I'll show you how to solve it after the break and then we'll do the Kahoot and then we'll do arrays of arrays. How does that sound? I'm sure it sounds amazing. Okay, let's have a 5-minute break. It's a blackout. 5-minute break. right, team. We're back. We back. Okay. Here we go. What would we? Ah, yes, we were going to clear the buffer. Oh, well, you see I've cleared it. I'm just gonna... Okay, so there is this function, and this function, just to do it very quickly, is called getchar. And what getchar does is it reads a character, one character at a time from the standard input. So whatever's happening on the terminal, it's going to read it one at a time. I'm going to go to Kahoot after this. So it's going to read one character at a time, and then you can either assign that character to something, but I just want to get rid of it because I know that that's what's sitting in the buffer is a new line. So I just really want that new line gone. So I'm just going to swallow it up. I'm not going to assign the return value anywhere. I'm just going to use getchar to eat up the new line. So let's have a look what happens if I do that. Okay, so let's compile it. And I'm going to remember to give it a name. So getchar is a function that is sitting inside the standard library. So inside your standard library here, there is this special function that reads one character at a time. So you know how you've got fgets, and fgets reads a string? Well, getchar reads one character at a time from your stdin. And so what it's doing is it's grabbing that new line from the buffer. Not the bugger, the buffer. There we go. So now if I run it here, I'm going to have Sophie, and Sophie's going to be from Australia, and Sophie's going to score a 9. And then I'm going to have Bella, and Bella's going to be from New Zealand. No, Henry's going to be from New Zealand. You're going to be from CS. Yes! Oh, but now I feel bad. I've given a 9. Oh, sorry, you're going to get an 8. I'm not, but I love you all equally. And then we've got Henry, and Henry's from New Zealand. Henry, if you're still in this lecture, I'm giving you a 2. Okay. Oh, I could have given you a 6 or a 7. I really could have, but you all told me off for that. And then Sophie told me I'm more than 20. I can't do it. Okay, so the scoreboard then prints out. Sophie from AU scored 9. Bella from CS scored 8. And Henry from New Zealand scored 2. Woo! Who's the winner? It's Sophie and Bella. A little bit Henry, but not really. Okay, so all I wanted to demonstrate is how to read something into an array of structs, which you're doing in the same way, but instead of having the variable name, you also reference the index. And the same way that you do for arrays, you also have a for loop to loop through the arrays. Okay, now the moment you've all been apparently waiting for without further ado. Is that the term? That doesn't feel right. Without further ado. Doesn't feel right, does it? Yeah. The assignment will release at 4 o'clock after this lecture. I can't let you choose your own names. You had very bad names. And we're all grown-ups here. Well, you know, a few of the admins sometimes join the Kahoot. It will come on the website, but you will also get a notification from the forum with an email to say the assignment has been released. But the release is set for 4 o'clock. Yeah. All right. How many hours does the assignment usually take? Depends. Stage 1 could be faster, then it all goes downhill from there. Okay, let's do it. Da 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 da. Ooh, it does not. That's why it has that array of chars. Yeah, that's what it means. It means that there is no data type that's a string. That's what it means. I think I said it once today, trying to like preface this. But yeah. Okay. There's one vibes question in here, so you just have to reply to that one very fast. Oh, very good. Come on, peeps. Ends with a null terminator, like a Terminator. Rational Panther. Sorry, I forgot to press next. Here we go. Next. That didn't press. Good stuff. Here we go. Next one. It's not, don't worry about line 4. Just go, what's printed out with a printf statement? Where's the line number? The line number went haywire. Yep, so it was 4 because it was hello, which is string length calculates the number of things minus that null terminator. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it should be 5. Epic wildebeest. Beautiful flower crown. Yeah, so when you do I'll answer in the chat. Okay, excellent. Very good. Okay, amazing. Elegant hornbill. There we go, vibes question. There's no right answer. Oh, there might be a right answer. I didn't mean to have a right. No, I didn't have a right answer for this one. This is just a vibes check. Everything's the right answer. Array ninja. Yes. Phew. Okay. I want you to be confident in the vibes that you're getting. Yeah, remember, because it needs to have a null terminator at the end. So it will only have up to 4 characters, and then the last thing's going to be a null terminator. Yellow bonobo. Bonobo? What kind of animal is that? Okay, amazing. Oh, I can't believe it. I think you'll have like a whole what's it called? I really should stop. I'm splitting between the chat and this, and I'm not paying attention to either one properly. Okay, last question. Bug in this code. This is when I realized I was missing line numbers, so I added them back in. Amazing. Out of bounds access. It will indeed, because it's going here until equal to 5 and the array size is 5. So we'll go out of bounds. Let's see who won. Number 3 on the podium is the bubbly fox. Number 2 is the aquatic boa. And number 1, oh, the yellow bonobo. What is a bonobo? It's a primate. I'm going to need to do a deep dive on this. I want to know more about this primate. Primate, not primate. Okay. All right, it's really time to do arrays. Arrays of arrays. Otherwise, you're going to have no idea what's going on when you start doing your wonderful assignment. Okay, so you can have, so we've done an array of structs, we've done an array of ints, we've done an array of char, you can have an array of doubles, you can have an array of anything, and by that same token, you can also have an array of arrays. So what happens if you have an array of arrays? To declare an array of arrays, you're basically drawing a grid up. But to declare it, you have a type again, and you can do array of arrays. Don't you worry, you absolutely can. So then you have a number of rows and a number of columns. You will also get to see me question my sanity, which is the number of rows and which is the number of columns, which way is a row, which way is a column. Column is the one that holds it up. So if I want an array of ints, even if it's an array of arrays, I'll say that the type that I want is an int. I'll say the name of the array, similar way that I do everything else. And then I'll have my number of rows in here and my number of columns. So what this will do, this 3 and 5, is it will draw something with 3 rows. So 1, 2, and 3 rows, index 0, 1, 2. And it will have 5 columns, index from 0 to column 4. And now my camera is right where you would want to see what happens when you want to actually access. So I'll move to here. So if you want to access the element at row 2, column 3, then what you're going to get is you're going to have go to row 2 and you're going to go to column 3 and you're going to get this lovely thing here. You're going to get access the number 2 in this case. So it's basically a grid. Okay, so we talked about tea consumption. If you want to do it for a month, let's say, or you want to do it a week at a time, you could do, you know, I've got my 4 weeks as my rows, and then I've got my 7 days as my days. So I'd have an array of ints, and now I'm tracking ice cream, and I'd have 4 rows, and I'll have 7 columns, and that allows me to have, you know, 4 weeks of 7 lots, and so altogether I'm storing 28 things. So it's a matrix, right? So I wasn't here when you did a loop inside a loop, and I hope that you were enjoying doing that, a loop inside a loop, and you did it with Henry. You told me you did do a loop inside a loop, and I'm going to believe that. So when you printed out a grid of numbers in week 2 with a loop inside a loop, you were going over the rows, and then you were also passing over the columns. So you were kind of actually moving through one and then resetting for this line and then moving down and then doing the same thing for the next slot and then resetting and going from 0 again and back to the full size. So you can also transfer this because it's also a grid structure. Yeah, so if you've got an array of arrays, you also have a grid structure, which means that you have a very similar thing. So let's say we've got an int array and it's got 3 rows and 4 columns. So drawn up over here, you've got the 3, 0 to 2 and 0 to 3. And we start at row is equal to 0, while row is less than or equal to 3, which, is that going to work or is that going to give us a mistake? Yeah, it's going to be seriously out of bounds. That's going to be, oopsie. So that should be less than 3. We're going to set the column to 0 and we're going to reset it each time, and I'll show you in a second. I'll run through the code when I write the code so you can see what happens. And the same issue is going to happen here, is we're going to head into out of bounds as well. And you're going to go through the while and you're going to print out array row column. You're going to increase the column and then you're going to go back and you're going to, you know, keep checking the columns, keep increasing the columns. So you're going to move this way. And then when you get to the end here, what's going to happen is you're going to break out of this while loop. You're going to go back to this loop. You're going to check the rows and then reset the columns so that you end up over here again. And then you're going to go through this row and so on and so forward. So it's going to basically move like this each time to move through the array of arrays. So let's see it in action. And what I'll do is then I'll pretend like I'm the computer and I'll run through it to show you what it's actually doing. Okay, so let's go into our 2D arrays, and the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to do a very simple array of arrays and we're going to print it out. Because that will allow us to just see what's going on before we get into it and we actually do anything with those, anything more tricky with the arrays. Okay, so we've got the very basic start of our program. So let's do something more exciting. Well, first of all, let's define our rows and columns here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to define rows and columns to be different just so that you can see which ones are rows and which ones are columns when we actually go through them. I'm going to keep them low so that when I'm drawing it up, I don't go insane. And now let's do it all inside our main. So there's 2 ways to initialize an array of arrays, similarly to a normal array. So if you remember when we have just a one-dimensional array, we would have something array, let's say rows, which would create an array of size 3. And then we could also initialize it by doing 1, 2, 3, and done. Yeah? So we can do similar, that's a one-dimensional array. So we can do a similar thing here. We will say that we want an array of ints, and the name is going to be array, but this time I want it to be an array of arrays. So I'm going to have rows and I'm going to have columns. So what that does is it creates something, a size array of 3 and 4. So it's going to create a grid of 3 by 4. And what I can do is I can initialize it straight away when I declare it. So if I don't initialize it here, then I will have to initialize it through user entry. Okay, so if I'm going to initialize it, the best way to do it is each one inside it is an array, yeah? So 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, so that's one row. Then I'm going to do another row, and it 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I'm going to do my final row, and it's going to be 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, and then that's going to be my initialized array. So this array, what's happening is it will create for me something that looks like this. So 1, 2, 3, I can't believe I've got rectangles and it's still not straight. Just pretend it is. Okay, so this is row 0, this is 1, this is row 2, this is column 0, so these are rows over here, this is columns over here. So 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, inside my array, I've now got 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I've got 5, 6, 7. 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, great. So I've got an array now, and that array's got some things in it, so that's what that created. And now I want to print it out. So I'm going to print out the arrays. First thing. Okay, so to do anything in our one-dimensional array, I will need to have a for loop. And it's the same thing in a two-dimensional array, except for now, I need to be able to go through. So if we were to do int I is equal to 0, what do you think is going to be the condition that I'm going to be going for here? So the first thing I want to do is I want to pass through the first array. So what do you think will be my condition to stop this looping? So I'm going across the what? So I'm going to move across the rows here, and then I'm going to change over, and then I'm going to move across the columns, yeah? Yeah, so I'm going to move this way, which means I'm going to go across 4 ways. So why is everyone talking about the exam? Don't worry about the exam. The exam is miles away. The hurdles are ranked, and the hurdles are always 1 dot and 2 dot. They're never 3 dot. Please, no more about the exam. You will have a whole lecture about the exam. I promise you, we're not going to leave you to just pass out in there. I'm pleased that someone's not worried. It's too early to worry. Save your stress for week 10. There are 3 dots in the exam, but they are if you want to get a HD. Okay. Honestly, I don't want to trick you in the exam. The questions are going to be exactly what you learn how to do. There is no crazy things except for the last question. That's crazy. Okay, so let's do it. So we're going to have something here. We're going to increase that, and then we're going to go inside. So I'm going to do it across 1, okay? And when I go across 1, so people have said rows, people have said columns. People have said many things. I'm going to do the very first one that I go across. So the first loop is going to be the outside loop. I always think when you think about the while inside the while, you think of the clock. So the inside loop moves many, many, many times. The outside loop moves for every turn of the inside, or 20 turns. Well, if you've got a clock, for 60 turns of the inside, it's going to move once the outside loop. So on the outside, I have the one that is going to be moving less, right? So I've got my rows, and then inside I want to be moving across my columns, and I will go over it, so don't you worry. I will actually run through it like the code so that you can see exactly what happens. So I'm going to say int j is equal to 0. And so for variable names, we've said you got to name them, in a way that makes sense. But int I and int j is okay as variable names, okay? We know what that usually means, and it's easy to determine. So I'm going to say j and j++, and something in here is going to break, don't worry. And then I just want to print out something. So I'm going to print out a %d, and that %d is going to be whatever is sitting inside my array at I and at j. And you will see it in a second come to life. Just hold on a second. Okay, so if we were to kind of, anytime you're dealing with a 2D array, what you're going to get is you're going to get this 2 for loops. So my first for loop over here is basically saying, okay, for int I is equal to 0. So I've got an integer and it's int I, and I set it to be 0 to start with. I has to be less than rows. Rows is 3, so I'm always checking it against 3. Okay, I is less than 3. Yes, 0 is less than 3. That's good. So I enter into the for loop. Now when I go in here, what I now have is I have a j, and that j is also set to 0 over here. And I'm checking it against the column, so I'm checking it against 4. So 0 is less than 4, which means I go into this for loop as well. And I print out whatever is sitting at ij. So I is 0 and j is 0. So when I access ij, what I'll be printing out is 1, and then that space, and it's the space over here. Okay, so I'll print out that space, and then I'm back in here, and my j is going to increase by 1. So once that j increases by 1, I'm going to check again, is the condition being met? Is 1 less than 4? Yes, it is. So I'm going to go in here, and now I'm going to print out something that's sitting at array 0, 1. So what's sitting at 0, 1? At 0, 1, I've got the number 2. Great. So now I'm going to print the 2 in the space, and I'm going to increase my j again. So now my j is going to go to 2, and I'm going to check the condition again. Is 2 less than 4? Yes, it is. So I'm going to go in here again, and I'm going to print out whatever is sitting at array at 0 and 2. So at 0 and 2, I've got the number 3, so which means I'm going to print out the 3 and a space, and I'm going to increase my j again, and I'm going to check the condition again. Is 3 less than 4? Yes, it is. I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to print out whatever is sitting at 0, 3. And at 0 and 3, I've got the number 4. So I'm going to print out the number 4 and a space. I'm going to increase my j by 1 to update that loop. And when I increase it by 1, I'm going to check the condition. This condition is no longer true. So I'm going to break out of this for loop and go back to this loop over here, to the outside loop. And when I go back to the outside loop, my I is going to increase by 1, which means that what's happened now is I've moved to this row. So when I've moved to this row, I'm now going to go back in, and I'm going to go back in here now. So what happens now? And this is why I like using for loops in two-dimensional arrays, because often the most common mistake is people forget to reset the column. But for us, it's done here because we're entering into this again. So that means we need to reset j is being reset back to 0 again. So that means we're now over here, and we go through it again, okay? So is it less than this? Yes, it is. So we will go 5. No, sorry, we will not. We're on the... Well, what are we missing? Otherwise, we are printing it over here. So what are we missing? Because otherwise, we will print that next number straight across here. So what's missing, and where is it missing? Yeah, so I'm definitely missing a new line. And where should I put that new line? What line of my code should have the new line? Yep, after the J for loop. Excellent. So once I've gone through all of my J's over here, once I got to this for and broken finish this loop, that's when I want to print a new line because I want to start all over at a new place and then I keep going, right? So this will allow me to print out the grid. You know what? Someone's asking a really good question. Genuinely, how do you think like this? Like when you see a question, how do you know to do this? And you know what? It's all about practice. And that's why it takes so much time. You have to see like 100 questions of the same type to be able to go, yeah, that's how I solve it. It's really, the more you see it, the more you kind of practice these different types of questions, the better you get at seeing what needs to be done where and what I need to use where. There is really no other way to do it. It's really like you really have to put in a lot of time into COMP1511, especially if you haven't been coding before. But there is no magic to it. Even though the content is hard and it can be hard, it's still, the more practice you get, the better you get at it. What is the actual purpose of C in the real world? Oh my gosh, you haven't looked at what things are running in the real world. Ah, yeah, a lot of things are built on C, a lot of processes, a lot of OS stuff. Yeah, a lot of stuff is built on C, and there is a big shortage of C because people are not, using it as much. Yeah. C is what's called like a low level high language. So it's a high level language, but it's the lowest of the high level languages. It allows you to do a lot. And what C allows us to do is it allows us to look at memory. Nothing is abstracted away, which means that in your introductory course, you get the best possible foundational understanding, which then means that it's so much easier to learn other languages, but also to learn other things. So things like assembly become also easier to do because you have a much better understanding of memory. So yeah. Okay, so let's see what it does. I'm going to get rid of this. I can draw it again if you want. I don't want to, but I can. Oh, it would help to save it. And then we'll go through and we'll do something with it. Okay, so DCC, where am I up to? What's it called? 2D array dot C. Okay, and let's run it. They're beautiful array of arrays. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. How does that feel? Can I make it prettier? Does everyone mind if I make it prettier? I get really annoyed when it's so... Ta-da! So much prettier! I've just told it to leave enough space for 3 things. That's what I did. But it looks so much nicer, like an actual grid. Okay, can we have like you do a point 2? So the 3 it leaves space. Can you please do a poll for me, please, how we all feel? So what the 3 did is left space around it. So look, 1, 2, 3, like it left padding around it for 3 characters. That's all it does. It's nothing amazing. It's just because I'm crazy. I never know if Sophie heard me or not, or if Bella heard me or not, but I just assume they have. And then we're going to sum the grid next. Maybe we'll do an array. Oof, a function of with an array of arrays. And do you want me to draw it again? How about I draw the next one? I'll draw the next one when we do, let's sum the grid. Should we sum the grid? Do you have to revise code? It's not that you have to revise code. It's you have to attempt questions again. And when you start preparing for your exam, not that I wanted to talk about the exam, I'd go back to like the first lab and do all of them over again. I don't think Sophia Bella doing a poll. I kicked Henry out. No, I didn't. He's gone to sleep. It's like 3 a.m. He's in Germany. Okay. We're not going to do 3D arrays here, even though I might want to, just for funsies. But no, we're not going to do it because things just get wild. Okay, so let's do a sum grid. How about that? We'll sum every single element in this grid. And I'm going to do it as a function. Let's do a function to sum the grid. And I'm going to print out. And I'm going to print out some sort of number for it. And I'm going to new line. Okay. Okay, so let's have a look how we pass an array to something. So I've got a function, so now I need to have a function here. Let's do a function out here. And this function is going to sum up the grid. So what is going to be the input to this function and what's going to be the output to this function? What's going to be the input? What's going to be the output? Ah, yes. There you go. You don't need to see my face. Just makes it look pretty. Okay. Output is int. I agree with that. I am returning an int and I gave it away over here when I had a %d. What's an input if I'm going to sum the whole grid? I'm going to sum this array of arrays. I'm going to sum up every single thing in here. So what will I need to give it? Yeah, so I can give it array and size, and you will always have to, so I'm returning an int, so it's of type int. I'm going to call the name of the function sumGrid, and then I'm going to give it my array, so int array, and the array is going to have some things in it. Okay, so prior to this, you've been giving the array, and then you've been giving int size, and you've been leaving this bit empty. Okay, so this is all fine and dandy, but in C, you always have to give the column size, okay? And I will talk more about it just because I'm running out of time. Not today, I'll talk more about it next week. But I'm going to put cols in here, and you know, just to make it easier for now, I'm going to keep this as rows, or I can give it a size so that to keep it, you know. We can talk about how you can make it more flexible next week, but just to make it go faster, we're going to do this. Okay, so if I'm summing up the grid, okay, let's do that as well. Why not? And in that case, we don't need this right now. Let's do that. We don't need it because we've got rows and columns. We've told it exactly how big this array is. Okay, so let's think. If we're going to sum up, what variable do we need? We need to have a sum and we're going to initialize it to 0 to prepare ourselves for some serious addition, which is going to be so exciting. Okay, now we're going to need to go through and loop through, and we need to go, okay, we're 1 here, we're 2, we're 3, we're 4, blah, 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 and keep adding. Okay, great. So that means we're going to need 2 for loops to make that happen for us. So I'm going to have the first loop, and the first loop is going to loop over the rows. So I always find it easier to do it like, okay, my rows is the first thing next to the array, so it's going to be my outside loop, right? So it's going to be the one that gets moved down to whilst I go through all the columns. So it's going to be my outside loop is going to be my outside variable, and then I'm going to I++, and then I'm going to do my next loop, and my next loop is going to be int j is equal to 0. And this time it's going to be j is less than columns, and it's going to be j++. Okay, great. Now I want to have sum is equal to sum plus, and what will I add to it? So how do I access the element of the array of arrays to access a variable? So how do I access this? What do I need? So I've got my array name, and then what do I need? Okay, you need the indexes that you're going to use for accessing. So the indexes before were just i's, but now you've added the j element as well. So you're accessing which indexes. Okay, and then when you come out of here, you're going to return the sum back to your main function. So we're going to see that it's working, and then I'm going to run through it as though I'm the computer so you can see what's actually going on. Okay, I've forgotten a whole bunch of things. I've forgotten to call the function, which is always useful. So I'm going to call the function here, and I'm going to provide it the array. And then I'm also need a prototype of this function. I did not mean to do that. So I'm going to prototype it as well. And I'm going to prototype it up here. And I'm going to save it again. And let's run. And 2D array. And the sum of the grid is 78, which I assume is correct. So I'm going to clear it, and then now I'm going to draw it up so that you can see exactly what happens in this code. Okay, so the code over here is, we're going to start at this line 34 where we call the function, okay? So I'm going to go to this line and I'm going to call the function. So when I call the function, I'm now going to move to line 43 where I'm calling that function from, and I've given it this array, which has a whole bunch of things in it, which kind of looks like this. Oh God, now I'm gonna have to draw it again. 1, I should have made it smaller. 2, 3. And the pressure's really on. I've got 7 minutes. I've got to be a fast machine, an efficient machine. I feel like this could be an artwork that I can sell. Okay, so this is 0, 1, 2, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. So my array inside it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Amazing. Okay, great. So we've called the function. We're now over here. We've got the function. It's sent this array to it, which means that it's using this array over here. And the first line is that we have this variable called sum, and that sum is initialized to 0. Great. So it's initialized to 0, and we now move to the next line. Now we've got another variable. That variable is I, and it's initialized to 0 as well. I'm going to check that I is less than rows, and rows is 3 up the top hash defined. It is less than 3 because 0 is less than 3, so I'm going to go into the next for loop. And the next for loop has another variable, and that variable is j, and I'm going to initialize j to 0 as well. And I'm going to check that j is less than columns, which is 4, and 0 is less than 4, which means that I go inside this for loop, and now I do the right side first. So my sum over here, sum is equal to 0. Great. And I'm going to add to it whatever is sitting at array at index I and j. So I and j are 0 and 0, so what's sitting there is 1. So I'm going to do 0 plus 1, and then I'm going to store that inside sum. So 0 plus 1 is equal to 1. Fantastic. And I go back to my inside for loop, and I increase j by 1. So j becomes 1. I check the condition again. Is 1 less than 4? Yes, it is, which means I go back in here and I do this again. On the right side, my sum is now 1, and I add whatever is sitting at array index ij. So if I access ij, it's 0, 1, which means I've moved over to 0, 1. So I've now moved over to this element. So I add 1 plus 2 in here, which gives me 3, and that means I now assign sum the value of 3. I go back and I check my j again. I increase my j, so my j becomes 2, and I check it again. Is 2 less than 4? Yes, it is. So I go back in here and I do the right side. So sum is now 3, and I add to it whatever is sitting at array index ij. My indexes are 0 and 2, which means I've moved across to do this number. So now it's 3 in here. So that's equal to 6. I assign that to my sum, and I go back out. I increase my j again. So my j is now 3, and I check the condition. Is 3 less than 4? Yes, it is. So I go back in here and I access the sum, and then I access whatever is sitting at my array at index I and j. So at index 0 and 3, which is over here. So it's the number 4. So now I add 6 plus 4, which gives me 10. So now I stored 10 in my sum. Okay, I increase my j because I finished that. So j is now 4. I check the condition. Is 4 less than 4? No, it's not. So I break out of this and I go back to this for loop up here on line 46, which means that my I now moves over by 1 so that I can access whatever is happening in this row over here. Great. So now I check, is 1 less than 3? Yes, it is, which means I enter the for loop and I go to my internal for loop. J is now reset back to 0. Yeah? And we are now sitting at this element of the array. So now we do the same thing. So sum is now 10, but now we're adding the next thing in it, whatever's sitting inside array 1, 0, which is 5. So now I add 5 to it, and then I assign 15 to my sum, and so on and so forward. And so now to finish off, could you please tell me how it feels? Sophie, can you run a poll? How does it feel, the array of arrays? You know, when we select tutors, I'll just put it out there, we choose more than people that just scored 99%. There are more things that are important, and they are the fact that someone is kind and empathetic and likes what they do and wants to teach. So there are definitely things that are more important than marks. So it's a combination. Yes, CS can be hard, but we don't choose our tutors based on marks alone. Okay, slightly confusing when I'm going to also do, you know what I'm going to do? Can you please give me also your feedback, what you found confusing today, because I'm going to start the next lecture and go over it again, right? So give me, please, the feedback. And tell me what it is that you didn't understand, or whether it went too fast, or what have you, and we'll do it again. You know, I think it's true. Arrays, everything seems harder when it's passed into a function, but you will get used to it and it will get better. And you know what? Next week, what I might do is I might show you how functions go into memory so that you can see what happens and how the calls to functions are made. So what the actual stack looks like. And that might help to really kind of get the vibes for what's going on. Don't worry. It does come together. You know, if everyone knew exactly what's going on after one lecture, I don't know, what would be the point? Something's too easy. We'll go through it again, don't worry. Yeah. So you start out by using it like methodically as opposed to with understanding. And that's okay as well, right? And then you build understanding. And you know, one of the best ways to understand something is to try and explain it to someone else. So if you've got a friend or if you've got a sibling and you can trap them in the house and explain to them a 2D array, you do that. And it helps you to build your own understanding as well. Don't stress. I swear you will have it. We have lots and lots and lots of help sessions available, and we want to be able to talk to you and to help you, okay? So there is a lot of support in 1511. Please use it. And the tutors are there to help you. We're all there to help you. Please post things on the forum and so on and so forth, and we can rehash and recap things in the lectures. All right, well, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Look at the assignment, just enjoy the theme, try and get like the first part of stage 1 started or to get it set up. Don't get too stressed about it. We will work on it, and in week 5 in the lecture I do a similar bigger program that helps you with your assignment as well. All right, have a lovely week, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Bye.